This is Battling Basic episode number. I actually don't even know what episode number it is because we've been getting a lot of podcasts done, and there's plenty more coming your way too, right? So if you have been paying attention to my channel, which you definitely should be doing, I went on McMaster University. I went on the McMaster University field. I interviewed students. I asked them, how many hours do you waste in a day? And the answers were kind of shocking, right? You guys saw the video. Average answer was probably about 5 hours. It ranged from 3 all the way to 10. If you're wasting 10 hours a day, I don't know what you're saying with your life. We're not here to judge. We're actually here to help people. But yeah, so the average answer was about 5. And today, I got the 2 most productive people that I know. We got my boy here, Hassan Hawillo, and we got my boy here, Eric Joy. These guys are straight workhorses. I got the best in the business for you guys, and we're gonna talk about productivity, how to maximize your time, and whatnot. So, to start, if you haven't seen the clip, go watch it right now. I'm actually gonna edit it into the podcast. It's gonna cut to the clip right now.
How many hours a day do you think you waste?
Waste? Probably like 5.
Probably a good 4 or 5.
Way too many, 5 or 6.
Oh my god, at least 8.
Maybe 4 to 5.
5.
On Netflix alone, probably 4 or 5.
What about the chill part? I'm joking.
Nah.
2 to 3? That's not bad.
4, probably.
4?
2.5. I couldn't count. Almost 6.
10.
10. I'm going.
Yeah,
I'm going at around 10 as well. I sleep 12 hours a night. Uni hit me like a brick, right? You gotta persevere, but it comes pretty quick. Comes in.
So you got 2 hours to study.
2 hours. 22 hours. What are we doing? 2 hours we're studying. That's all I gotta say.
Okay, you think that's enough?
You know what? Doesn't look like it's enough on my little grade section, but we're keeping going. Almost exam season. Gotta stay strong, folks.
Battling Basic. All right, we're back. You guys saw the clip. You guys obviously watched it. 5 hours a day on average. What do you guys think?
Go first. I don't know, man. That's, I guess it's something I'd probably expect. Not because I think most people are lazy or anything, but it's easy. 5 hours is easy. Let's say you have an 18-hour day. You slept for 6 hours. You get up. Got 18 hours. 5 hours goes by like that. You know what I mean? And you still have 13 to be productive. So 5 hours, I think I can understand for the average person.
5 hours? What do you think, Joystick?
I don't think the average person is sleeping 6 hours a night.
Well,
you got to be having a reason to sleep 6 hours and then getting up that early. So if you're sleeping 6 hours a night, you're probably not wasting that 5 hours because you have a reason to get up that early. Do you guys know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would say people that are usually wasting 5 hours, again, I'm generalizing here, guys. I don't know, but I think the person who is wasting those 5 hours in a day, they're probably getting a good night's sleep. You know what I mean? Maybe between 8 to 10 hours because they're not. They don't have a particular maybe thing in mind that they're wanting to do, or they don't have the right reason or the motivation to do so. And you know what? Maybe sometimes 5 hours that people think they're wasting, they might not actually be wasting at all, because it depends on what you consider to be a waste of time. That's a big thing too, right?
We're gonna break that down for sure. We're gonna break, because there's a lot of people actually in the interviews. A lot of people are like, I don't know, what do you consider a waste of time? Like when you do laundry, do you consider that a waste of time? Honestly, I don't consider that a waste of time, because at the end of the day, you need to get laundry done. No. Yeah. But we were talking about, it takes 3 hours. If it takes you 3 hours to do laundry, if you're folding your clothes absolutely perfectly and ironing them and whatnot, then that's a waste of time, right?
Yeah, you don't want to be walking around smelling like shit, guys, right? You gotta do your laundry. But if you're taking 3 hours to do your laundry, or if you're putting stuff in your washer machine, that's 60 minutes, right? You can use that time to go maybe make a meal or something like that. Man, hell, if you've been working hard all day, go take a small nap. That's not a waste of time, right? You're being productive, really. You're time managing quite well. Or you can study, right? That's what I usually do.
For sure.
I just throw my stuff in the laundry, and I go, hey, I'm going to 60 minutes of hard work. When I'm done, I'm going to go do my laundry, and then what comes next, right?
Yeah. So let's break it down. So we actually did the math on this, right? And we put a numerical value on how detrimental it can be to waste 5 hours a day, right? So I actually did I have the calculations right here, right? So pretty much if you waste 5 hours a day, right? So we interviewed university students, right? University students on average make about 50 grand a year when they graduate in salary, right? So that comes down to about $25 an hour, assuming that they work 8 hours a day, right? And if you take 5 hours a day, multiply that by $25 an hour, that comes to $125 a day. Multiply that by 5 days a week because you take weekends off, by 52 weeks a year, right? That comes down to $32,500, right?
Oh man.
So if you're wasting 5 hours a day,
It's a hefty sum of money.
I can almost pay my OSAP.
Yeah.
pretty much, man, like that's like your OSAP for all of university, man. Like you're wasting $33K a year. Now, obviously money isn't the be all end all, right? You don't need money to be happy. That's not the message here. I'm trying to put a numerical value on this so people can perceive. I think people perceive things better when there's a number on it or whatever, right? So this could be towards anything else. This could be towards artistic ambitions, athletic ambitions, whatever, right?
For sure.
And I did further research, and I got into statistics, guys. I got into statistics.
Yeah, let's hear 'em.
And I came across this thing called the Pareto distribution. Now, during school, we learn about we usually learn about the normal distribution, but life is irregular. Life is not normal. So I came across this thing called the Pareto distribution, right? The Pareto distribution is a square root law. So if you look at any domain, right, whether it's artistic, athletic, whatever, right, they say that most of the productivity in that domain, right, comes from a small number of people. So the Pareto distribution says in any domain, if you take the square root of the amount of people in that domain, they account for 50% of the productivity. So if you have 10,000 people in a domain, right, take the square root of that, that's 100 people. 100 people out of 10,000 make up 50% of the productivity. These people are your Steve Jobs. These people are your Elon Musks. These people are your LeBron James. These people are your Michael Phelps, right? So what message do we gather from this? The message is this. Really productive people can get really efficient, and really unproductive people can get really inefficient, right? So at the end of the day, if you're looking to be productive, you have to ask yourself, which one of those do you want to be? Now, there's some people that don't want to be like that, and all the respect goes to you. But if you're one of those people that holds yourself accountable and you'd like to maximize your time as much as possible, you need to ask yourself, do I want to be the really efficient person or the really inefficient person? So those are the stats, right? Those are the explanations. Now we're going to get into how to avoid procrastination, how to become that efficient person, right? If you don't want to be an efficient person, all the power to you, right? You don't have to even listen to the rest of this show, right? But if you're looking to be efficient, we're going to break it down. So I got two workhorses here, two straight. I swear to God. Do you know how hard it was to organize this podcast? No, I'm joking. But yeah.
I asked for after Christmas initially, and he was like, "Okay, maybe not." And I was like, "You know what? I can set aside like an hour at some point. We'll get it done. Yeah.
But yeah, guys, like, how do you guys avoid procrastination?
You want to start?
Yeah, it's just, I think a big part is having a long-term perspective. Kind of like you said, 5 hours a day doesn't sound so bad if you think of a single day at a time. But if you think about a year, all of a sudden you're out $30,000, right? So long-term perspective and setting long-term goals helps with that, because if you can see where you want to be, then 5 hours doesn't seem like such a small amount. Because 5 hours compounded makes the biggest difference in the world, right?
Yeah.
That's always something that keeps me kind of in check.
Yeah. So you have a why. You have a long-term perspective.
For sure, some sort of purpose. And then also with purpose, I think you need to be hopeful as well. You know, like if you have a big goal, and it's, let's say, even if we break it down in terms of students' goals, right? Like 4 months at a time, we're thinking semesters, right? If you have a 4-month goal, that's a long period of time, right? If you start the semester off right, doesn't mean you're gonna end well, right? So again, just having that long-term perspective and being hopeful that things are gonna work out, and believing that you have the potential to actually change the outcome of, you know, your goal. That's kind of one of those big
Oh man, I've done that so many times. Start out the semester well, I'm like, oh, I'm killing it. And then exams come around, I'm just after I'm like, oh no, that did not continue. But yeah, anyways, Joyce, like, what do you do?
I 100% agree with Hassan for once, which is not very common. But I live with this guy, right? And no, I'm just kidding, guys. No, we're good. We're good buddies.
That's why I got them both on at the same time. Trying to create
Get these
drama.
fiery
Yeah.
controversies.
We'll be arguing about this later. But no, I do agree with Hassan. I think that when you have that long-term perspective, you need to break it down even farther than that. You need to have things that you are always doing for yourself. You need to have discipline, right? And in order to have discipline, you need to have your priorities set in check. And if you don't have those priorities, then you will not be able to continue to be disciplined, and you will not get the outcome that you think you are capable of doing. So the things for my priorities that I like to keep into check, right? I always think that my health is number one. My health is number one. If my health falls, if my health is the base of the house and that goes, then the house crumbles, right?
For sure.
The next floor for me is going to be, my second priority has to be school, right? We're all paying a tremendous amount of money to get an education that we think is going to better our life somehow, right? We're learning things.
That's assuming you value school, obviously, right?
And that's assuming you value your education, right? And if you're
Yeah.
putting money into it, or if your parents are doing it, if you've had that luxury, or if you have the luxury to be able to get student loans, or if you work your ass off to be able to pay for it yourself, like, you're still paying for that education. You need to make sure that you're putting as much time into that as possible. That's why I make that my second priority. It's not my first, because if my health doesn't stay in check, then the school goes, because I can't keep up with it then, right? Because there's so many other things going on in my mind and my body that I'm not taking care of, that school just completely just dies on me. My third perspective now for me, my third thing that
Your third floor.
Yeah, my third floor, yeah.
I'm assuming you're still using the house analogy.
I'm using the house analogy, yes.
Or is it something else? Because this is becoming a big house.
Yeah.
3-story house.
I'm making a lot of money with this old setup here. But so the first one, again, my health, that was the base of the house, right? The first floor then was my school. The second floor then is my wrestling. Okay, so for me, that's like an extracurricular activity. I think that you need to have something outside of school in order to maintain your discipline, because it gives you an outlet. Right? Now, for like an artist interpretation of that might be like painting, right? I know people that are in an engineering program who actually do take the time they set aside time to paint, and they're very good at it, and it's because they really care about it and they're really passionate about it, and that's something they enjoy doing, right? And that extracurricular activity actually helps maintain their health.
For sure.
Right? But if their health isn't in check, they won't be able to do that, because the school has fallen behind, and their extracurricular activities, they don't have enough time for those, and then that falls as well. So I always maintain those three things as my priorities.
That's super important, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
And if one of the lower floors goes, then the next one has to go, right? If my school goes, then I don't have time for that extra. If my school is suffering and my health is in check, then clearly my extracurricular activity is affecting it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
If I'm healthy, my mind is healthy, my body is healthy, but my extracurricular is taking up too much time, then I need to cut it and make sure I get back to school to make sure I'm focused. And then when I have time to go back to the extracurriculars, I put it back in.
So pretty much, if your health is in jeopardy, you got to cut out those other two things just to make sure your health is good.
Yes,
right?
yeah, exactly, yeah. You have to find a balance between it all. I know I'm saying a lot, but it's, just to keep it at like the basic level, it's just health is the base. First floor then is my school. Second floor is something extracurricular. You got to have that, guys, because it helps you keep perspective.
There's a lot of evidence to suggest that having like a passion project of some sort of hobby on the side, especially in like super rigorous professions that have high levels of burnout, it does protect you in the long run. Along with exercise, you had mentioned that, and having some sort of like something you do for fun, right? That type of thing keeps you fresh over the long term.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I think this is really key, having balance, because there's one thing you avoid when you have balance, and that's tunnel vision. Being focused and vigilant is very good, because obviously it keeps you occupied to your goal, right? But tunnel vision is bad, because you start only seeing one thing and you start losing everything in sight in the periphery, right? And that could be vital information. So what you guys are saying with the balance and for balancing your life and whatnot, it's good because you're avoiding tunnel vision, right?
For sure.
So I think that's really key. I know I fell in that trap where I've gotten really intense about certain things and really obsessed about certain things, and I'm just like, I found that I actually was performing worse than when I was kind of more balanced, and it kind of confused me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that can be helpful in short bursts. I think sometimes there is you are presented with, like, let's say a deadline that you didn't expect. I need this on my desk by tomorrow. And at that point, yeah, you actually have to block everything out so that you can perform at your highest ability, right? Over the short term, I think that makes sense, but over the long term, I think that's when you run into some issues.
Well, it's like the reason we make tunnels, right, is to make things faster. We want to make traffic flow faster.
Right.
But if you're always traveling in a tunnel, man, you're not going to see that beautiful mountainside. You know what I mean? It's just going to be one
Guys
dark.
got the best analogy.
You know, it's going to be the light of there's going to be light at the end of the tunnel, and you're going to be going through that tunnel your whole life. And then by the time you get there, it's already nighttime and it's dark, and what's there to offer to you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You won't get to see that beautifulness.
All right, so like, you guys talk about not procrastinating, right? So once you surpass that, right, and you start actually doing stuff, how do you? So like, the difference between busy and being productive is that when you're productive, you're actually doing damage. You're actually accomplishing what you want. But being busy doesn't necessarily mean that, right? So let's say you stop procrastinating and you start doing the tasks that you want. How do you avoid being busy and try to actually be productive? Like, we talked about doing 3 hours of laundry, right? When you're doing 3 hours of laundry, you're busy, right? But you're not necessarily being productive because you're going to wear those clothes regardless whether they're ironed or not, you know?
Well, I'm just going to circle back for 1 second, talk about avoiding procrastination. I think it kind of goes hand in hand with this. Just the idea that in order to avoid procrastination, you got to get creative about the way that you motivate yourself, because something that motivates you one day might not be the same thing that motivates you tomorrow, right? So today you might, let's say we're talking about school. That's something I'm really invested in. I can relate to that. I'm sure a lot of students can. Let's say you have an assignment and it's going to take you 5 days to work on. Well, today you just want to get started, and that's your motivation. I want to have something on the paper by the end of the day. And, I'm really interested in getting a good grade on this, so I'm going to put in some time.
Yeah.
Tomorrow you might wake up and, you're kind of over that. So you got to find another motivator. Well, you know what? I don't want to let my parents down. A little bit of weight on your back.
So you change your goals as you go?
Not change my goals, but change the motivation for approaching my goals.
You have a long-term goal, and then you have micro little goals within that long-term goal.
Definitely. And then the next day, you know what? I want to be a good student. I want to label myself a student. I want to be able to be proud of that label that I kind of put on myself. So I'm going to perform as a student today. That's my motivation. The day after that, it's something totally different. I want to get a 12. That's my goal. I'm looking at the grade and nothing else. And the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And then that way, if you get demotivated, it's not an issue because you have so many tools in your bag to get you back on track.
Yeah. I think a common trap people fall into is like being too emotional. So like, I think when you have a long-term goal, you set certain principles that help you achieve that long-term goal, right? So like, I want to get more fit. That's like, you have to live a healthy lifestyle in order to become more fit, right? That's a principle, right? But then there's people that fall into the trap of relying on their emotions, right? For instance, if you want to get more fit, I feel good when I drink that green drink. I feel good when I drink that green drink. That shouldn't be your motivator. Like, obviously it can come into play, but you want to rely on your principles of living a healthy lifestyle, because your emotions can deceive you. Your emotions can, like, one day you'll feel good, one day you won't feel good. That's a fact. That's a straight. You're not gonna feel good every day. If you feel good, you shouldn't. No, because if you feel good every day, like, there's probably something wrong with you, right? No, like, you gotta stay true to your principles, not your emotions, because in the moment that you don't feel good, as long as you recognize the principles you have, you'll get shit done regardless, right?
It's also you got to consider, like, one thing I noticed is you got to consider what is a waste of time, right? So what do you guys consider to be a waste of time, right? So people are right now listening to this and they're thinking, well, I talk to my friends every night for an hour, right? Okay, well, what are you guys talking about? That might not be a waste of time. I talk to this guy like probably an hour every day, right? Honestly, but it's a productive conversation because we're either going to be telling each other about maybe some stresses that we're having, and we're going to help each other get through it, right? Kind of lean on each other, right? Or maybe we're just talking about something silly that we saw on the internet, and that makes us laugh and feel good, and then we can go on and carry on because we're not feeling burnt out. But if I'm sitting there with Hassan and we're gossiping, that's a waste of time because you're spending mental energy on talking about other people that doesn't help you in any way whatsoever, right? Now, if it's like a productive criticism, saying you guys, when you talk to this person because you want to help, that's different. We're saying, fuck this person, I hate this person, blah blah. Like, oh yeah, I agree, right? Like that's a waste of time, and that is not good for you, because then you hold on to some of that conversation for the rest of the day, and that sits in your mind and festers, right? And it's taking up part of your day that you could be using towards something else. Yeah. So if I had let's just give an example. If I have a 10-minute conversation about another person that pissed me off today, right? And I held on to that for the rest of the day, I probably just wasted 5 or 6 hours thinking about this one thing while I'm trying to study, right? People waste time in that way. Man, I'm saying this because I was guilty of it before, right? I did that a few years ago. I used to do that stuff. I didn't realize it, and I started like changing things to fix that. You know what I mean? So like recognizing when that emotion is starting to occur and just draw myself out. You know what? I don't want to deal with this, right? Because it's not a realistic problem, right? And I can sort this out quickly by removing myself from it. Done. Boom. Move on to the next thing, and now I can be productive with the rest of my work.
In the long term, it doesn't matter, man.
It doesn't. Those things don't matter.
Bro, like last night, like we went to like the LCBO, right? And like, bro, like Max wouldn't even split licks with me, bro.
Not a big issue, man. Chill.
Yeah, it's some energy you can save, I think.
yeah. And this is the known thing. It's I think it's 20 to 25% of your, when you're at rest, so when we're just sitting here, right, we're not doing much, 20 to 25% of your calories are actually spent just with your brain, just doing its normal functions, right? So when you're studying, think about how much energy you're spending on your brain functioning, because you're trying to learn new information and encode it into your brain, right, and make connections. Like, it's a lot of work. I don't know what the percentage is of it then, but what do you think? Like 35 maybe? I don't know.
Your brain's mostly fats, and the main source of energy is glucose. So you're breaking down all sorts of.
I think your brain uses like 20% of your body's glucose.
Yeah.
So
it's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Just when you're at rest, right?
Just to stay like normal.
So when I say wasting mental energy talking about other people, like that's an actual thing, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Man, like I think a big thing too in order to avoid procrastination is just like having a routine. I think routine is so key, man. Like you wake up and you do this, like certain things every day that are vital to your day. And like if you really break down routines, they're composed of habits, right? And I don't know if you guys, there's this good book I highly recommend it called The Power of Habit. In the book, he talks about how to build good habits, right? In order to build good habits, you have to have little cues that lead into those habits, right? And so, for instance, like let's say you want to build the habit of reading. You want to read for 30 minutes every day, right? So I actually have the cues written down. There's 5 cues that he says that are vital towards building habits. So the cues are location, time, emotions, other people that you talk to, and the last action that you did, right? So let's break it down. For instance, you want to read for 30 minutes every single day, right? How do you do that? So you can set a specific time. Let's use the cue of time. Let's say you sleep at 11 every single day. You use the cue of time. At 10:30, I'm going to read for 30 minutes. So next time you're just chilling at home, it's late at night, it's about like 10:25, and you're just like not really doing much. Like, it's going to be 10:30 in 5 minutes. Maybe I should pull out the book, right? And that's how you build habits. And then if you build enough habits, you'll have a routine. And if your routine is composed of like enough good habits, you will have a good routine and you will not waste any more time. You know?
I totally agree. And then along with it being a habit, kind of like you said, it becomes a ritual, right? It becomes a signal to your brain. It's a call signal that, okay, it's time to kick it into gear, or it's time to relax if, let's say, you're getting ready for bed. But if you ritualize your routine and you have certain things that you do every single day, it not only does it serve as a reminder, but it's almost, it draws you in unconsciously, you know what I mean? Like you kind of get dragged into this thing that you do every single day, and if it's productive, then, you know, you start to, over the long run, really make a difference.
And those habits are the cement filler to my health. Do you know what I mean? It's what fills like that bottom layer for me, right? So like building those habits and those rituals is an integral part of keeping sure you stay your mental health stays in check, as well as your physical health, right? A strong component of that could be, if you're religious, it could be praying and making sure you stay on top of that, right? Because that is something that you have, you know, done most of your life, and if you stop doing it in school, then you're going to start missing out on the components of your health that you didn't know or that you weren't aware that were so important.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? And there's many different types of things you can do, right? One thing I do every morning is I make my bed. because no matter, even if the rest of the day is gonna, or something bad happens that day and it's out of my control, when I come home, my bed is made, right? This happened recently. Something just happened one day, and I was like, damn, that sucked, right? And it was a long-term thing over the day. But when I got home, my bed was made, and I did that morning knowing that something might happen that day for the circumstances that I was in. And I was like, you know what? Like, I did that for myself. That's a good reinforcement that this made me feel good, right? Because having that bed made shows you that no matter what happens, that was the first thing you did that day, and you respect where you sleep, right? This is where you lay your head down at night to regain your rest, right? This is where you feel safe. So you need to respect that place, and you need to make sure that it's kept clean and tidy, because that is an integral component of, I think, from my perspective,
so
keeping health.
that's his ritual.
That's one of my rituals. Yeah,
You guys gotta
for
find
sure.
your rituals.
Yeah.
That I like that though. That's awesome, man. Like I'm gonna start making my bed.
Kind of going back to your question though about like being productive versus being busy.
Right.
That's a very real question everyone should ask themselves. Just because you can fill out a calendar or an agenda with things that you did today doesn't necessarily mean that it was productive time, right? So I think a trap a lot of people fall into is kind of counting that the hours that they were working. I think especially in first year when students are getting used to the new workload, they get caught up in this kind of thing like, oh, I was at Thode for 5 hours today.
Oh man, don't even get me started.
Mill's second
man.
floor learning
Right?
commons. I was there for 12 hours.
So you were there for 12 hours. You spent 5 hours dicking around with your friends, right? And then, how much time did you actually get to work? Like, these are questions you have to ask yourself. So rather than focus on the hours, I would say focus on the amount of things that you got accomplished. Okay, so you sat down for 5 hours. What did you get done? Did you get done one big assignment, a couple of small tutorial, things you had to do, some things you had to get out of the way, or was it, really dispersed and not focused energy? You know what I mean?
Did you learn a lot?
Did you learn something?
Yeah.
Sometimes people just go through they literally read their notes and not like take it in.
Yeah.
They won't take it in.
When I study, my goal is to be as confused as possible. This sounds like backwards advice, and I'm sure it's not for everyone because it's time consuming, right? But I try to ask as many questions as possible. I try to see if I understand it well, right? Because I'd rather face the questions that I pose to myself rather than have an exam or test put me to the test. You know what I mean? And me not be prepared for it. So that's kind of the deep work versus surface learning, right? That's kind of the difference there, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good shit.
Yeah.
That's good shit.
That's good shit. Yeah, I like that.
I want to be as confused as possible, man.
Just
I'm confused
ask
all the time, and I
questions.
don't know what's going on with my grades, so I don't, no, I'm just kidding. But,
No,
yeah.
man, like in first year, like, well, I fell into this trap, but like, yeah, like you'll have that one guy that studies for hours and hours on end, do the midterm, not get a great grade, and then you'll have that one guy that studies for like, a few hours, maybe like not even that much, but it's productive, and then he gets the good grade, and the other guy is just like, I don't get it, bro. Like, I studied for like 10 hours, like for like the last 3 days, and like you studied for like 2. Like, fuck you, bro. Like, why are you so naturally smart, bro?
Right.
And then they're gonna think about that all day, probably while they're trying to study for that 10 hours, right? And it's gonna piss them off all day,
It's just like,
waste of time.
I think when you're productive too, it gives you the opportunity to make mistakes. I think that's a big thing. I don't necessarily know if I make fewer mistakes than other people, but I know that with the way I spend my time, I make a mistake, it's okay, I can recover quickly because I can catch up. You know what I mean? So if you spend 3 hours reading textbook, let's say readings, and you realize it was the wrong chapter, that's okay because you can pick up very quickly and you can move on,
Yeah.
And so it kind of gives you that windfall in case things go wrong. You can still catch up. You can still be on track.
Yeah.
Just want to add another thing onto the busy versus productive. Like Hassan was saying, you write down all these things in an agenda that you think you're going to get accomplished today, right? And you might do it, but did you learn anything, right? And you also have to realize that you're only one person, right? You're one human being. Like, you can't do everything, and you have to, go back to those things we were talking about, keeping perspective and having your reason, and try to figure out what it is that you're doing today to make sure that you can do everything possible in a productive way, the most efficient way, to make sure the next day becomes, a little easier to getting towards your goal, right? Not to say to work less hard each day, but you're getting a little closer, right? In whatever way that may be, and you can't spread yourself too thin, you got to realize your limitations. You're only one human being. And, like, this is, again, most of the stuff I talk about is just from my perspective. Like, over the summer, I tried to do too many things, right? I was really into a lot of different things, and I found that my health started to go. So then I just had to start cutting things again because, like, oh, look, I did this again, right? But it's okay because I made a mistake and I'll learn from it. But you need to realize you're only one human being, and that whatever you are passionate about or that you care about, you should put your time into that and not worry about trying to do a whole bunch of things. Do really well at 1 or 2 things. That will get you a lot farther than being mediocre at 7 or 8 things.
Oh, I completely agree.
Right.
Because your work becomes dilute at that point.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
you want to be concentrated.
And I think another big obstacle, at least personally, I know that it's gotten in the way for me. I know other friends have had similar kind of feelings. Is that shame and guilt get in the way of productivity. If you wanted to get something done today and you didn't get it done, it's very easy to be like, well, it's like fall into black or white thinking, all or nothing, because you didn't get everything done today. It was a bad day, it was useless, and you're putting a lot of pressures on yourself to perform. Whereas if you just take it one step at a time and you're able to fractionate your work, right, get it into very small pieces, so that I got 60 out of 100 pieces done today. That's incredible. If you could do that every single day, then you'd be done in no time at all, right? So
we would have cured cancer by then.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Like, honestly.
You just got to break it down into the smallest pieces possible and not get discouraged when you don't get everything done.
It's a continuum, man.
Continual, yeah, exactly. Continual perseverance and work over the long term, yeah.
Yeah. And just continuing off of that, be ready for all of it not to work. Like, honestly, like, man, it just sometimes everything that you might do everything right. You might have your health is perfect in check mentally and physically. You're getting 12s or A pluses or 4.0s, whatever school you go to, in all your courses. Your extracurricular activities, you might be like killing it, like everything's going just right, but it just might not work sometimes, and you have to be ready to fail, and that's okay, because it's not about getting to that goal at the end of the day. It's about having the goal in mind, but learning and becoming who you're supposed to be or who you're going to become is more important than the actual outcome. Yeah, right?
For sure.
Like, if you have a goal to, let's just say, become a professional athlete, that's a long road, right? And, good job to people who do that, and some do it, but most people won't. And the people who end up doing the drugs and the alcohol and stuff like that were so focused that their happiness was so, dependent on attaining that goal. And when it didn't happen, they had nothing left. But the people who keep it into perspective, this might not work, but I'm going to give it my fucking best shot. And they look at all the things that happen around them, right? They're not tunnel vision, right? They're looking everywhere else, right? And they're seeing, look at all the people that I met. Look at how fit I am. Look at how mentally strong I am. Look at all these different skills that I have. And you make a list of all these different things that you learned about yourself and have grown. And then, although the professional athlete thing might not work, you're going to be one hell of a fucking coach.
For sure.
Right? Or you might have all the skills to be, like, let's say, an amazing military officer. Or you might be like an amazing manager, right? Or you might be just so content with yourself and not want to have any other goals that you just go and you work at something that's kind of like relaxed, and you just play recreational sports on the weekend. That's totally fucking cool too, because you are okay and have learned to put aside your ego and just kind of be proud of who you are and who you've become 100%. During that process.
100%.
Yeah.
It's not about the accolades. It's not about the awards or the certificates or the medals or the trophies or the diplomas. It's more about who you become along the way. It's not about what you get. It's about the transformations that you can make in yourself, right? Because at the end of the day, you strip everything away and you have yourself, right? All of it could crumble, but if you have yourself and you have integrity and you have belief in your abilities, that's really the ultimate goal. That's really the ultimate reward.
Yeah, you can't identify with the achievement. You can't. You have to be yourself first, and then you have to identify. You have to be yourself first. You can't identify with it. How many times do you see that an actor or an athlete makes it big and then drug abuse?
Michael Phelps. Greatest Olympian of all time. Like,
how crazy is that, right?
Alcoholic for some period of his time, got pulled over and he got a DUI. He got back on the horse after, but it took time, right? And he had attained that greatness, and it wasn't the key to happiness for him.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I feel you, man. I feel it. But yeah, anyways, guys, that's some knowledge drop for you. If you're in school or if you're just doing anything else, keep all that in mind. everything we talk. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, like we're cutting this podcast to about 30 minutes because we know students have a short attention span.
It's also
And we're not trying to waste your time.
yeah, we're not trying to waste time. But again, you got to remember what considers a waste of time. Hopefully you guys took something away from this, and we're still learning too, right? Like we're still students ourselves. We're young guys, and we're just trying to impart some things that we've learned in the last, our combined 9 years of university.
Definitely.
So, well, actually, and plus this guy, so it's 14 years university. Holy shit.
Racking up those numbers.
Self-development is not a waste of time, all right?
Yeah, study hard for exams.
Study hard.
Good luck, guys.
Yeah.
Woo!
Battling basic.